Well, that's a step in the right direction.
The Horizon American Saga has a lot of potential. However, its first installment was disjointed and disappointing, and it honestly featured very little Kevin Costner. I was going into this thinking that this was going to be a Kevin Costner movie. It's not. There's a lot of other players in this field, and we don't really get to see very much of him shine. By the San Pedro Valley River lies Horizon, a land full of promise and opportunity. Settlers of all sorts across America travel to seek its rich land to discover that it is not as advertised to be. Dangerous and barren, the land is guarded by the Apache Indians, who thwart the development of anyone who desires to inhabit it. Going into the film, I was more than excited to see one of my favorite Hollywood stars deliver a film that reflected the good old days of movie entertainment that are lost in modern-day Hollywood. And yes, this film did not shy away from presenting a story featuring emotionally impactful moments, tales of bravery and heroism, and respectable representation of competent masculine men. However, it cannot be ignored that this film followed too many plot lines. In this video, I'm going to be explaining the 7 different plot lines that unfold throughout this film, and I'm going to be talking about them in non-sequential order. Because these plot lines, they jump all over the place. We go from story to story to story to story to story. And it's very confusing, and there's a lot of different characters. All the characters are pretty different from each other, and they all are unique, and they are interesting, but it's just too many ingredients. It's too many ingredients in the story, which is confusing and often it causes us to get checked out at some points because it's too much to follow. So I'm looking forward to breaking it down, getting into the content with you. I'm going to try to avoid spoilers, but I'm going to set the stage and I'm going to tell you what these different plot lines are. In case you don't want to see the movie, I think you'll get a good sense of what it showcases in my video here. But if you've seen the movie and you're pondering it, if you're trying to figure out what happened, I hope that I can break it down for you in a better sense if you missed some things the first time through. Before I do though, make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, hit the notifications bell so you don't miss the next episode. I greatly appreciate it. The first one follows Kevin Costner's character Hayes, a mysterious man that just wants to get by without any sort of trouble. After stopping into a town along his journey, he stumbles into a persistent prostitute that plays his emotions to her advantage. Before any sort of dirty deed had been done, however, Hayes is approached by a young, angsty antagonist who searches for a stolen child of his evil-ridden family named the Sykes. Reluctantly thrown into unwanted trouble, Hayes is left on the run with the prostitute and the stolen child. We also follow the inner turmoil of the Sykes family itself. The two brothers Caleb and Junior inflict chaos and pain upon several characters throughout the movie. Their motive to seek retribution for the pain inflicted upon their family is confusing and difficult to follow. While watching this plotline unfold in the cinema, I was puzzled as to what the beef was that the two brothers shared, the substance of which was left open to interpretation seemingly. The other 5 plotlines explored in the film are oddly disjointed from Costner's story. There is a standalone story of a band of over a dozen wagons that ride for the horizon. Under the protection of Luke Wilson's character, the travelers, consisting of an economically diverse population, stir division and unwanted conflict amongst each other. This plotline primarily focuses on a wealthy married couple's confused and bothered experience through this dirty journey. It requires a labor that they have never entertained. We witness the wife's disregard for the rest of the band through her acts of privilege, taking advantage of the resources of the camp. The 4th plotline follows a happy family thriving within a tent community along a river. After a fun evening of dance and celebration, the community is massacred by a rogue Apache tribe. Despite the hell unleashed, the now widowed mother, Frances Kittredge, and daughter Elizabeth survive and seek refuge under the care of the Union soldiers at a local fort. Becoming acclimated to a new lifestyle, the surviving family members bond and form lasting relationships with their new neighbors. The massacre of the community birthed angry, vengeful townfolk seeking revenge against the tribe that brutally slaughtered their loved ones. We also follow their mission to enact a similar devastation upon Apache encampments. So this is a group of guys that were so upset about what happened. A lot of their family members were brutally murdered in that camp, and they were so upset, so they went on a vengeance trip, and they're seeking out the Apache members that massacred their tent community. So that's another plotline that we follow. The film also dives into an exploration of the Native American tribe responsible for exhibiting the devastation upon the settlers. Through an extensive dialogue within the encampment, it is clear that the onslaught was driven by the rebellious son of a peace-seeking chieftain leader. Through this, we follow the inner turmoil spread throughout the tribe. Lastly, the Union members who came to the aid of the survivors of the Apache massacre are exhibited with extensive dialogue and relevant story between each other. Sam Worthington, Michael Rooker, and Danny Houston dialogue often, and we explore their relationships and plans for the future of the Union Army extensively. So this is a 3-hour movie, but a lot of these plotlines are really short because there's so many of them, and our time is spent. We spend like 15 to 20 minutes with each one, and that adds up. And some received more attention than others. Some were a little too long than others. I know I definitely wanted to see more with the wagons. I really liked that sort sort of like the Oregon Trail. It had that sort of vibe going for it, and I really liked Luke Wilson's character. I thought it was an interesting premise. It's very much so 1883 if you watch 1883, but we get a little bit of everything. So if you don't like a certain plot, you don't have to deal with it too much. A certain plot line, you don't have to deal with it too much. But it's just the time is spread out way too much in this film, and it's odd that Kevin Costner's not a big part of this either. He's a very small fraction, and I believe we see some other characters, and some of these other characters have more lines, have more time on screen than Kevin Costner even does. I think the movie's definitely advertised as a Kevin Costner movie, but he's just not a very big character in it. And he's also not like this heroic guy that we're used to seeing him play as, which is somewhat refreshing, but it's also a little disappointing because I went into this thinking he's going to be this new American hero that we all could use right now, but he wasn't really. He's just a normal, simple-mannered guy that's just trying to get by, and there's nothing wrong with that, but I don't think I'm used to seeing that from Kevin Costner, especially Western Kevin Costner. This whole movie, it just kind of feels like a whole season of something was crammed into one film. There's so many ideas here, and I think he wanted to bring that idea, like the multi-part series, to life in a film. Because 1883, Yellowstone, 1923, a lot of these big shows or these like mini series that come out, they, of course it's made for TV. This is just, it's the same kind of format, but it's all shoved into a 3-hour sequence in a movie style. And it is fun to watch that in theaters. I think this movie has a lot going for it too. I think it is very well written. I think the character's well written. I think that the acting's pretty good. Kevin Costner's great, obviously. Like his character, I really like him. It's hard not to like Kevin Costner as an actor, like a character actor in these movies. But it's just too many ingredients to follow, and it's hard to grow attached to a lot of these characters because there's so many of them. I mean, it's like the equivalent of like Endgame or like Infinity War. But the problem is, you know all those characters from separate movies. We don't know any of these people in this. And when you see these relationships form, it's not very, I don't know, it's hard to follow along and to be invested in them and to get excited for these characters because we don't know them very well. It's like being introduced to a new friend and just learning that you're going to be roommates with them even though you've only known them for 5 minutes. It just doesn't make much sense, and you're not going to be too excited about that prospect either. I will say that fans of Yellowstone, 1883, and 1923 are probably going to be disappointed with this movie, as much as I hate to say that because I like all three of those series. This show, although it does have a lot of like interesting, captivating storylines, it doesn't know how to use them, and it does not know when to stop, because having that many plot lines is it's too much to handle, and there's just not enough time in 3 hours to delve into any of these relationships, any of these characters, and to grow attached to really any of them, especially even Kevin Costner's character, which really surprises me. As for Yellowstone and those series, they take a lot of time to slowly introduce you to these characters, to build them up. And I realize that this is going to be a multi-part series, but if this one movie doesn't sell, if a lot of people don't go to see this, then why would you see part 2, part 3, and part 4? More people are just going to keep falling off, and I don't think anybody's just going to jump onto part 3 out of nowhere without seeing part 1 and 2. So that's something they need to be aware about, and that's not something that's our fault. Unfortunately, that's Kevin Costner's fault when making and editing this film. I think the editing was particularly odd. But when it comes to like parental guidance with this, I'd say there's only 2 scenes you need to worry about. The prostitute girl, unfortunately, she has a scene with Kevin Costner. It's pretty gross. That's towards the end of the movie. And then there's another scene with the rich lady on the wagon trail. You can see it coming though. So just be aware of that. It's like halfway through the movie. Other than that though, I give this movie a 6 out of 10 because I think it has a lot of entertaining elements, and it's steering the cinema into the direction that it needs to be again. We need strong masculine men characters to be in our movies again. We're really missing that, and we also are just missing great story. We're missing great captivating writing, and we're missing westerns. We don't get westerns anymore. I was trying to think of the last western that aired, and I guess the last one was the Killers of the Flower Moon. I consider that one, which was a pretty good one, definitely better than this. But I think this one it's a worthy addition to the western genre. However, it certainly didn't lead up to my hopes and dreams of where this would go. I've been looking forward to this for a long time, and I was disappointed leaving the theater, however. But with all that being said, go watch the movie. I think it's good to support these movies, although it has its faults and it's difficult to understand. And I want you to watch the last 5 minutes. The last 5 minutes of this movie, I'm not going to spoil it, is one of the weirdest 5 minutes I've ever seen in any film. And I don't want to get into it. If you see the movie, let me know in the comments below. If you know what I'm talking about, it's a montage. Weird montage. I don't know what they were thinking, and you're going to be left wondering what the point of that was, what it's trying to reflect. Is it like, a preview of something else? I think I know what it is. I don't want to talk about it. I don't want to spoil it for you. Make sure to like the video if you liked what I said, or if you enjoyed the content you watched. Subscribe to my channel. I'd really appreciate it. I'm a newer YouTuber, and I'm a big Kevin Costner guy. I made a video of Dances with Wolves if you want to watch that. I broke down the movie, talked about what I liked, bring it back to light because Hollywood needs to start going in that direction again. And even though I had a lot of negative things to say about this, I don't think that I don't want to dissuade you from going to the theater to see this, because I think movies that tout some of these principles should be supported. Some of the things in this film are very, very much so important to see in Hollywood again that are lacking, and I think it's going to be something that will be craved by a lot of the male audience, certainly. So make sure to check out I almost said Dances with Wolves. Make sure to check out Horizon American Saga Part 1 if that's the kind of stuff you're into and if you want to support that. But anyways, I appreciate you watching my video, and I'll see you next time.